Councilman, District 2. And today we have an incredible opportunity, you and I together. Cordova is one of the 35 areas within the city of Memphis to receive the first $400,000 of a $200 million Accelerate Memphis grant provided to you by your city and your city council. What we're here to talk about tonight is the first of a series of ideas on this $400,000, specifically talking about improving traffic conditions, improving green space, improving what I think is the Cordova community identity. We've had many a conversation, many a public outing. This is the first of two opportunities to get together. We're going to hear a presentation on the initial thoughts and ideas of where this money is going to go. And then what we want to do is open it up to you and get the questions and the thoughts, and most importantly, the feedback of where you want or think that money should be spent. I've long said that as goes Cordova, so goes the city of Memphis. And now we embark upon how we are going to take Cordova to the next level. So we're going to go straight into Accelerate Memphis with our representatives of Kimley Horn. Again, I'm Frank Colvett. I'm your Memphis City Councilman. It's a privilege and an honor to serve you. And now let's get to how we're going to make Cordova even better. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Susanna Barton, and I'm the administrator of the city's Comprehensive Planning Department in the Division of Planning and Development. I'm going to just introduce a few folks that are with us in the room tonight, and then we're going to talk more specifically about Accelerate Memphis. We've got some folks from the City of Memphis Comprehensive Planning Department tonight. We've got some folks from Kimley Horn here tonight, our project team, and also Malazri Engineering. And just a really special thank you to the councilman for hosting us here this evening and helping us get folks here. I know it's a difficult time before the holiday. We really appreciate all his support and being in this wonderful community center. So tonight I want to tell you a little bit about Accelerate Memphis. As I mentioned, I'm with the Comprehensive Planning Department, and our department is responsible for Memphis 3.0, which is the city's comprehensive plan. And as you may remember, that was developed over the course of 2 years. Over 15,000 Memphians were engaged, and several hundred meetings during that process. And that really helped us get to where we are now. So Memphis 3.0 is a roadmap for how we're going to grow and develop our city over the next 20 years. So where we are today with the Accelerate Memphis initiative, which the city has will invest $200 million throughout the city between now and the end of 2023. So we're at the time now where we are actually implementing Memphis 3.0. So let me give you a quick breakdown of how the $200 million is going to be spent throughout the city. So we'll spend $75 million in parks. We'll spend $75 million activating Memphis 3.0 and $50,000 investing in community-wide assets. Wanted to share with you a lot of the exciting investments through Accelerate that are happening in this district specifically. So when I said $75 million in parks, that's everything from paving streets in parks and connecting community centers, soccer fields, tennis courts, community centers, playgrounds. So here's a list of several of the projects that are happening in this district. We also have under activating Memphis 3.0, we're doing some really important street safety intersection improvements, some signalization that is much needed at Trinity and Germantown that will help with traffic flow and pedestrian safety. And then what we're talking about specifically tonight is the early stage investment, the old Cordova anchor. So when I said we have $75 million for activating Memphis 3.0, that's also broken down in a few categories. One of those categories, as Councilman just said, coming out of the gates, we have 35 early stage investments throughout the city. One of those is here that we're going to talk about tonight. That's $400,000. Again, it's meant as an early stage investment at this location to make some much needed improvements, and it's the start of additional future investments down the road. So My colleague here from Kimley Horn is going to talk about the location in particular, and then what we'd love, the point of tonight, is to hear from you. So we actually have the same location represented at three different boards, we're calling them stations, in the back of the room, so that way there's not a bottleneck and everyone can feel free to come and take a look. These are all current conditions, so we just want to remind you of what this currently looks like, and we want to hear from you. What are your experiences there? What are your challenges? What do you think needs to be there for the investment? Tell us how to spend $400,000 in this location. So again, you're going to look at current conditions. You're not going to look at, some new concepts, because we want to hear from you tonight. So I'm going to let my colleague here come up, talk a little bit about this location, and then we're going to break out. Thank you.
Thank you, Susanna, and thank you all for having us here. My name is Owen Harris. I'm with Kimley Horn. We're excited to be part of Activating Memphis, and really look forward to speaking with each one of you. So Susanna covered this already, but tonight we're really focusing on how we can spend this $400,000 within this particular anchor. And as we go through this process for each one of the anchors as part of the project, we're starting to look at what are some of the most common issues and how can we remedy them. So amongst those issues, we're looking at managing vehicles, considering dangerous driving, whether it's speed or lack of visibility for the pedestrian. And then from the pedestrian experience, what kind of infrastructure is there? Are sidewalks missing? Are they too narrow? Are there crosswalks? How far is that crossing across the street? Is it a safe distance? We're also looking at multimodal transportation, be it bikes or the scooters that we see around town or skateboards, any other alternative forms of transportation. Are there the necessary facilities to accommodate for those? We also look at how we can reinforce the sense of place. Really tying in with authentic connections to the neighborhood and to the adjacent community. Specifically, is there an identity? Do we need to provide something new to reinforce that? Also, a common issue is lack of open space, whether it's just street trees along a roadway providing shade and a comfortable environment, or actual park space for gathering, seating opportunities within the street and within Old Cordova, right there at that intersection. And then from a safety standpoint, maybe it's a lack of lighting. It just feels like an unsafe environment. And so to remedy these, we have a little bit of a toolkit, if you will, and all of these sort of go in depth on the pink boards that are associated with the blow-ups of the space back at the back. But some of these measures could be implementing traffic calming alternatives to maybe a different pavement type, or narrowing down a travel lane so that people just intuitively travel more slowly. We're trying to improve pedestrian infrastructure. Again, widening sidewalks, shortening crossing distances. Maybe there is not a sidewalk currently, and we just need to provide a pedestrian connection. Again, multimodal, providing bike lanes or bike parking, making some separation between those different forms of travel, whether it's by foot or by bike or by vehicle. And then again, we want to create a sense of place. What really hits home that you are in Old Cordova and within this really distinct environment. That could be through the use of new gateways, signage, branding, if you will. It could be murals within the pavement itself. The opportunities there are somewhat endless. And then with the limited open space, how can we break up a sea of concrete or asphalt and provide some breathing room with vegetation or shade, street trees, something that makes it a more comfortable environment for pedestrians and alternative modes of travel? And so this is an enlargement of the board that you'll see at the back of the room at each one of the breakout stations. The photos on the right are keyed to arrows within the aerial photographer on the left side. And so those arrows are pointing you in the direction that the camera is facing. And so within Old Cordova, right here at Macon Road and A Street, you can see that within photo 1, there's extra roadway width there on the north side of Macon. Is there an opportunity to narrow up that cross-section of the street and provide a space for people or improve pedestrian safety when crossing Macon? 2 and 4 show a lack of sidewalks for a pedestrian connection. How can we better connect to the surrounding neighborhoods, the green line that's just to the south of this area, or even to the elementary school that's just beyond the green line? And then 5 and 6 show that there's no distinct connection to the green line. Obviously, this is a really prominent feature within the entire city of Memphis, but we aren't making a connection to it at this particular location. Is there an opportunity there to reinforce and provide another gateway into this wonderful element that we have within the city? So these are all things that we noticed just as we were out on our site visit and taking photos. But again, as Susanna said, we really want your ideas on how to spend that $400,000 within Old Cordova. We're at 6 is looking south down Street A. That is, I believe, Street A, or A Street. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's correct. And so when we break out here in just a minute, we're going to move to the back. We've got 3 different boards set up. They're all the exact same, so don't feel like you're missing out if you don't make it to every group. But what we ask is that you take the provided sticky notes that are there and provide comments. Just write it on the sticky note and place it on the aerial image in the location in which it applies. And then if you come along and you see, oh, well, somebody's already made that comment, and I agree with what they're saying, we've got little green dots that you can put on that same sticky note. If you disagree, we have red dots, and you can voice your opinion that way, or provide another sticky note and explain why you disagree. And so now we're gonna move to those breakout sessions, and before we do that, I want to make sure that everybody is aware. 1 second, please. I want to make sure that everybody is aware that you can provide additional feedback by emailing info@memphis3.0.com. If you leave here and you think of a comment that you meant to write down and just didn't get to it, you can provide that comment in that manner. So thank you all for your time, and we will move to the breakout sessions.
Some of the things that jump up at me, and I'd kind of like to get some quick questions from you just to maybe get the conversation started before we go into breakout. I would like to get kind of a 30,000-foot view if y'all want to come on up. An idea, and this goes back to my construction days, when you look at Cordova, the town, there is the what do you call it, the parking area where the people cook food and have the bands right on the south side there, food trucks. You know, I always kind of envisioned maybe a median potentially built into there in front of Cordova, the town. It would knock the sound down potentially of the traffic. Again, that would blow through the 400,000 in an awful big hurry, so I think that's kind of on our wish list, our BHAG goal. But those are sort of the ideas that jump up in my mind. Do y'all have any ideas just out of blush with what you're seeing? Ms. Possible?
We all know from living out here, unless you're in one of the HOAs, your subdivision doesn't have sidewalks. That area that you want to improve doesn't have sidewalks. So at $400,000, how many feet of sidewalks can we do or narrow or widening a road? Because $400,000 when you're talking construction costs is like nothing. So you're talking about improving an area with $400,000. What could we actually do for $400,000 to actually improve this area and make it an anchor? Because we all can come up with a wish list, but at $400,000, how far is that actually going to get us?
Well, Patty, what my initial blush at it is I can have an idea for medians, but you bring up the more valid point of sidewalks. Obviously, that's more important, I think, utilitarian speaking. That's the feedback we want from you, because if 5 people say sidewalks, and I know that there's a system, there's a trend going here that we need to look more at the sidewalks and what's the cost. So I agree with you. First point, 400,000 is going to be gone awful quick. But the second point is I need to know from y'all what's more important. I tend to agree with you. Sidewalks, medians would be nice, but sidewalks are probably way more important. Sir?
Can I have a follow-up to that? Do you
Sure.
mind, just a little bit? So our only choice is Cordova to the town for this particular grant money versus like putting in, I don't know, proper drainage along Dexter Road, which doesn't have sidewalks. The garbage cans can't even sit on the roadway without falling into the ditch. It's constantly clogged and it's constantly, flooding that area. So is that the only options here, is just that one particular spot?
So this location is an anchor that was identified in 3.0 and was selected as one of the early stage investments as when Accelerate Memphis, and please you can add, but when Accelerate Memphis was planned, right, we were looking at the whole city and how we could best spend this money to benefit everyone. So I understand $400,000 is great, but we also know with rising costs now, but we're going to do our best. And so this location, again, through the implementation priorities of 3.0, this location was identified and then was chosen then for an initial investment from Accelerate. But just like in all of our other meetings, if you have other comments like that, we want to take those. I mean, we actually took a code enforcement comment last night and we followed up on it today. So if you have other comments like that, we absolutely want you to tell us that. Tell me, and I will take notes. That's why I have this notepad, and then we'll work with the councilman and follow up. But also I want to just go back to your point about sidewalks. I think that's a great comment, that if you identify that sidewalks in this location in particular are a priority, tell us. If you think that you're not really going to get your bang for the buck in that, and maybe a crosswalk to get across Macon is more important, or a flashing pedestrian sign, or a gateway sign, tell us all of those things, right? We want to think about, how do you think we can best spend this $400,000 here?
And to close off the comment on engineering side, Patty, let's get together on that because that could be CIP budget money, especially when you get into drainage. This is as much aesthetic as anything else. When you get into a drainage, CIP is our capital improvement budget. That's the one where you hear us taking about $100 million worth of bonds every year to do exactly things of this nature. So I think it's kind of an A and a B. Right now, think cosmetic. Sir, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm not sure which one of you wants to address it, but isn't that station a historic area? And are there any design, like can we slap a mural on the side of the old Cordova station or any of that? Is that okay in zoning or historical?
Well, we would check that, but yeah, we would check that for sure. But I think an interesting point to make about a mural or an artistic treatment is that, as was mentioned, that could actually be used for the crosswalk. If there's some identity that we want to bring out, that could be used for the crosswalk if the building is not an option. But there may be another location specifically thinking about this food truck area. So I think if art is a priority, let's work through that. And then, and art also would not be developed for you. It would be developed with you, so.
And also, as a fun follow-up, there's another budget for that too. So if you have an interest, text me on that because we may find a different pot of money for that. Sir?
Okay, just some fundamental questions. Are the funds we're talking about for Old Cordova just for infrastructure, or are we talking about possibly other expenditures?
Okay. In terms of drainage, I would do that through CIP. In terms of infrastructure, if you mean the crosswalks, sidewalks, medians, anything to slow traffic down, perhaps landscape improvements, visual improvements, then the answer is yes. But as we're going forward, I think there are other pots of money that I can go for when we get into certain things. We're going to be up on the internet so that all of Cordova can watch these proceedings, see these handouts PDF-wise, and make some determinations and give us some good feedback to kind of basically say, okay, what are we trying to do here? What is our goal and objective with this pot of money? Because to my knowledge, $200 million hasn't been kicked in like this in my lifetime, at least. I mean, we're looking to take our park systems and all of that into the next level, and Cordova couldn't be more important. You seek the floor, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman Colvett. 3 points. Regarding the old Cordova, the town area, I think it'd be wise, and maybe this is already happening, conversations with some of the business property owners in that area, particularly those on the south side that need to be developed a little bit more, improved. Okay, that's a big thing that could help the overall area. Secondly, I think we need more north-south access to the Green Line. Okay, particularly those of us that live on the south side of Walnut Grove, which a good chunk of that is still in Memphis city limits. I mean, you're risking your life trying to cross Walnut Grove, driving, much less riding a bike or walking. So that's something that needs to be considered. And maybe that could be a part of it. So put that on the wish list. And then Sanger Road. I think Patty mentioned drainage on Dexter. I can't think of a road that's worse than Sanga between Trinity and Walnut Grove. Every time we have a downpour, the road floods and leaves are everywhere, and it's a hazard. It's unsafe. Thank you.
However, there's $200 million. Give me some ideas. That's what we're here to talk about. If this is ginning you up, the access to Green Line, I think Todd's a great idea. Let's consider that. I'm all ears. Let's just lay it on us. Further questions so far? Okay, let's go into our breakouts and again, get our ideas. You have our access. Please email us, text us at any time you have any follow-up questions. Otherwise, look for this to be on the internet. Thank you.